Here, HRM uses that space for summer day camps, indoor sports, and other activities like that.
Oh, okay. So so that's something that you would be willing to compromise with instead of a all year round club. You would be willing to compromise
Yeah, we
in
would,
Dartmouth.
as long as it's located somewhere in Dartmouth. We foresee, something that's either added on to an existing sports center,
Right.
or if the city Parks and Rec is planning to build a new sports center to handle the growth in the population, we'd love to be part of that if it's located on the Dartmouth side of the harbor.
Okay, thank you. And I just have a question. I have a couple of minutes left. Maybe for Maggie, it would now be an appropriate time to make a motion for staff to start doing the investigation on this, and would that be appropriate for this meeting? Yeah, to refer.
I'll defer to the clerk, but certainly there'd be no reason from my perspective not to advance with a motion today.
Okay, great. Simon, I would like to do that if you could wordsmith for me.
Okay. Councillor Saint-Anon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious what the typical off-season looks like in terms of usage for a facility that has been set up purpose-built for curling, but then has off-season uses. Are there some really easy, logical uses that would commonly be used?
There are. You have a big concrete slab that you can use for indoor lacrosse, indoor soccer, pickleball. We've operated pickleball courts the last summer. You can fit 4 or more courts.
I know my
in a 5-sheet.
my uncle is a curler, but he was also a lawn bowler until the Bedford lawn bowling facility washed away in the floods in 2023, and they're still looking for a new place to call home. Is that also another activity that would commonly be done in a surface like that? I know they have roll-out mats.
Roll out the carpets.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've looked at there's a lot of different surfaces out there now for ice rinks.
Right.
We've been examining a surface called Ice Grid, where it comes in sections, and you actually build your ice floor in sections, and then you can add on top of that other wooden surfaces or whatever to make it more adaptable to certain specific functions. And it's not too much more expensive than a regular concrete floor, but even a straight concrete floor facility can be used for many, many purposes without much difficulty. And lawn bowling, I think, would certainly be one of them, because the flatness of the curling, when you pour the curling floor, you work really closely with your concrete contractors to get within a quarter inch of level differences over the whole floor.
Yeah.
So that turns out well for lawn bowling, because they need.
I'll note that there are a variety of accessible purposes with a facility like this as well. I know that stick curling is very commonly used when someone can't get into the position to play the game conventionally in that crouched position. So there are a lot of different ways that this type of activity can become a very accessible part of our Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, we have a large stick curling population where the average age of our membership is 62.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a very strong senior component, and a large percentage of them use sticks. We don't have any wheelchair curling in our facility, but Sackville does in their facility. They're the only one in Metro that has a stick curling league.
Right.
And I have a cousin who just won the stick curling provincial championship. And it's mixed gender.
Is Peter your cousin?
Peter, no.
Oh, okay.
It's Stephen.
Peter
Stephen
Boudreau
Parfit.
just won the provincial title as well, so I was curious. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you all for coming in and meeting with me earlier to help me understand a little bit more what your request is. Some of my questions have been answered, which are your willingness to consider being added to another facility or build new. I have a particular question, but I want to encourage you as things go forward, if you have an opportunity to have presentations, I would encourage you to go down the lane around other uses as well. I think that's a really important piece for any decision maker to see the usefulness of the facility for the global municipality, the public. Because if public funds are going into it, that's going to need to be that kind of a commitment to the usage. Another thing that we can all be very, very proud of is Nova Scotia has had a tremendous international ambassadorship and athletes that we can be very, very proud of. And that I would say that particular club, having been formed so early by women, is also another very, very good story to highlight. We are, that would have been game changing back then for women to form and create a club of their own. And so as a woman, I just encourage you to highlight that. Obviously, audiences would like to hear those kinds of historical pieces, because we don't want to lose that in today's newness of the curling world, right? We don't want to lose those little bits of information. Go ahead. Did you want to say something on that?
But we have a very large women's
Oh, I see.
division. Yeah, we have over 100 women curl Monday to Friday every morning.
Okay, maybe I misread the piece that came out.
Just so that it's
Yeah, okay.
clear.
All right.
But it is a very strong women's organization. And back
Right.
in the 40s and 50s, it was liberating for them to be able to, groundbreaking.
Okay, good to hear that. So I'll come back to my particular question. Things like adding to a new facility, reports that might have to be done, in particular new facilities, they don't happen overnight. And it could take a while to sort of set everything in place. Should you be fortunate, we'd be fortunate enough to do it. In your opinion, at the site that you're at now, how much risk are you at? Like, what would be a timeline when some of these other things that might be at play? Because I would absolutely agree with you. I live in a coastal area. I've grown up in coastal areas. We know the impact of being near water. We don't get the same brunt impact of an ocean front in the harbor, but we do get the collection of stormwater, the high water rise. And if you are the remaining infrastructure in the low point, there's no option but water to drain into there. And we can be as confident in engineering and such as we want. Mother Nature will do what it's going to do. And I think that if we can look towards creating something else, another environment for you, is far better than you trying to mitigate and push Mother Nature back. That's my opinion, just based on all of the things that I've seen in my lifetime living near water and representing near water, right? And that downhill run creates a lot of problems right at the bottom. And in this case, may not even be able to get to the final landing stage, which might be the harbor, right? Yeah.
So I think we just have to live with that flooding risk for the period of time that we're going to stay where we are.
Yeah.
And parking is probably the issue that will drive us out, but we anticipate that we can stay there 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
Based on, we've been in touch with all the surrounding property owners, trying to get a handle on when they expect their development to begin. And 5 to 7 year time frame seems to be about what we are expecting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's good to hear, because again, it takes time. It takes time. Yeah. Thank you for coming in, and yeah, look forward to see what the motion might be that we can consider here. Thank you.
Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to follow up on what Councillor Kent was saying about maybe collaborating with other groups for the off-season potential to show, a greater benefit to the municipality. Just a plug-in for the Dartmouth Pickleball Association. Yes. They are very on the ball, well organized, a growing need. We have a lot of very avid pickleball players that may throw their weight behind this as well to help. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Councillor Saint-Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a motion ready to put on the floor, and thank you very much for so clearly articulating what your vision is for what's next for your club and the role that we can play as a municipality in trying to help shepherd that along. Let me just jump back to my screen here. So my motion will be as follows: that the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee direct the CAO to engage with the Dartmouth Curling Club on options and opportunities for a new curling facility and potential municipal involvement, and return to this committee with a staff report.
Is there any further discussion on the motion, or are we ready to call for the question? We're voting on the screen? Oh, okay. All by hand. So all those in favor, either raise your hand or A. Contrary minded, nay. The motion has passed. Thank you. Thank you to our presenters. Councillor Kent, did you have a comment? Sorry. Oh, not for the floor. Okay, perfect. Okay. We'll call our next two presenters from the Turret Art Space, and that's I'll invite Angela Henderson and Alexis Cormier to come forward. And you have 10 minutes, and our clerk will provide a verbal notice, not a verbal notice when you have 30 seconds, or he'll hold up a sign actually that says 30 seconds. So I'll give you a few minutes to get settled there with your microphones. All right. Okay. Perfect. And you may begin when your microphone turns green.
Okay, good morning. My name is Angela Henderson, and I'm here today with my colleague Alexis Cormier, and we're going to present the impact strategy for the Turret Art Space Society, as well as our ask for support. So we're located downtown in a heritage building at 1588 Barrington Street in Jabuktuk, Halifax, on unceded Mi'kmaq territory. This building is being brought back to life through the care and vision of the Turret Art Space Society. We will provide a dynamic environment for creativity and experimentation in one of the only fully accessible art spaces in Halifax. The Turret will specifically cater to the needs of previously excluded people, supporting the creation and co-creation of new cultural forms. As landlords, we will provide a 20-year sustainable economic model, facilities management, and we will house 2 critical arts and social purpose charities as anchor tenants with protected rent at less than 50% of market rate. We will have 1 commercial cafe tenant and many community rental spaces. Our programming features a learning center for professional development in the arts, as well as public venues for exhibition and performances. And we will program artist residencies and both indoor and outdoor public art. As stewards of this building, and this history, we will have permanent and rotating exhibitions that express the queer heritage of 1588 Barrington Street. The Turret and our 2 anchor tenants are registered charitable nonprofit organizations. The Khyber is a queer-led, artist-run center with nearly 30 years of experience in presenting contemporary art, with annually over 2,000 audience members. And LOVE, Leave Out Violence Nova Scotia, is a social worker-led organization servicing at-risk youth referred through the justice system through arts and leadership programming. LOVE's headquarters will operate out of the Turret, serving outposts in Sibiganakadie, Membertou First Nation, Dartmouth, and Preston. And annually, LOVE services over 300 youth annually. Khyber's current location lacks visibility and access, and it does not meet their functional needs, while LOVE, formerly located in the North End, is currently unhoused. So here are the funders to date. We've raised and spent $1 million on design development, partial abatement of hazardous materials, and a significant amount of strategic and economic planning. You will find a full list of activities in the supplemental document we've provided for you. So our impact strategy aligns with HRM plans and initiative that you see listed here, while also contributing to achieving the goals of Downtown Halifax Business Commission's Vision 2030 and the new Integrated Tourism Master Plan and Associations of Nova Scotia Museums, all of whose letters of support are attached in the long-form report we've prepared for you, along with over 2,000 letters of support from our recently launched letter writing campaign. So there's an urgent need for expansion in arts, culture, and social spaces. After thorough market research, we've identified some key barriers to expansion, as well as an understanding of how the Turret can have impact or make the biggest impact in solving these problems listed here. So problem 1, public commemorations have ignored deserving histories, discouraging community participation. Problem 2, arts and culture workers are left behind by the systems that should support them. And problem 3, downtown Halifax is growing at an unprecedented rate, but the cultural spaces that create community are disappearing. So the cumulative effect from a lack of arts and culture spaces has real economic impact that you can see here. We are the lowest GDP per capita in North America. So now is the time to invest in opportunities that can leverage investment in downtown Halifax. Currently, we are trailing in national imports by 30% and exports by 70%. So we can see here that this is the impact of a lack of cultural space and where Halifax has the greatest opportunity to contribute to a better GDP performance. So the Turret seeks to designate 1588 Barrington Street as Canada's first queer heritage site, setting a national precedent for stewardship, demonstrating HRM's allyship and leadership at a time when human rights are being threatened across North America. In 1969, homosexuality was partially decriminalized in Canada, but queer people in Nova Scotia still had no protection under the Human Rights Act. In 1972, the Gay Alliance for Equality formed and began political activation. In 1976, they hosted their first disco at 1588 Barrington Street, and from 76 to 1982, they ran the Turret Club, continuing their political activation, which impacted human rights across North America. So this was history making in Canada, and yet there's still no public commemoration of this history or this site. So in addition to stewardship, the Turret will continue to support artistic livelihoods from early skills training and professional development to providing artist residencies, all the way through to national and international import and export. Finally, the Turret will provide year-round events, programming, and community spaces in a universally accessible facility centrally located in the network of other arts and cultural institutions in the downtown core of Halifax.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. So here are the risks if the Turret project is delayed or goes unsupported. HRM needs to engage with the growth of the downtown, or we risk losing it. We are experiencing unprecedented cost escalation issues right now, which exacerbates all issues. So the time to build is now before those issues get worse. Funding delays lose cost efficiencies and threaten our team's momentum, which we've already experienced, unfortunately. We also risk losing this heritage asset. Environmental impacts from unprecedented flooding events put the building at risk if left vacant. As we've mentioned, the critical anchor tenants are key, established cultural pillars, but their premises are lacking economic and physical accessibility. They must be rehoused. And finally, if this project goes unsupported, HRM loses the opportunity to set a precedent and show real cultural leadership in stewarding queer heritage. The turret aims to raise $18.5 million through a blend of public and private funds. This project leverages federal investment and activates private investment across many critical community interests. Our financial model shows how turret can be sustainable and thrive over a 20-year horizon. So the $18.5 million is not just for capital investment, but also for an investment in a 20-year lifespan. Turret has been moved into the final evaluation for federal infrastructure funding. We are confident we put forward a strong case for investment in Halifax and Nova Scotia. Here's a high-level breakdown of our budget. We have much more detailed breakdowns available upon request. As you can see, it's a blend of both capital and operationalization funding. And there are more details in the long-form report we provided you ahead of this meeting. The turret is requesting from HRM $1.5 million for immediate use while turret continues to raise funds to complete construction. This funding would include complete construction documents and tender, making the project shovel-ready, with a complete operationalization plan and business case ready for implementation. It also includes the completion of hazardous materials abatement from the building. Turret also requires operating support while the project is in process, as they have been carrying the expenses for the last 6 years with little ability to generate revenue. Therefore, an immediate injection of $50,000 is required to cover the debt of 2024-25, and then we ask for 2 subsequent injections over the next 2 years while the project is in construction. Finally, we ask for funding for Turret to be able to collaborate with HRM to develop the Queer Heritage Designation pilot and to create a collaborative building ownership model. And just a reminder that every dollar that HRM invests in the project is to increase the value of an asset that HRM could take back through the existing buyback agreement should the project not go ahead, an asset that far exceeds the value of the investment we are requesting today. We request a co-creation partnership with HRM to set this precedent for stewardship of queer heritage. This would include relief of property tax, which that program is already in place and we appreciate it. It would include 100% of building maintenance when the building opens and is operating. It includes time and effort investment to collaborate on this pilot project to set a precedent, with the goal to be completed in time for Canada Pride 2027, which will be hosted by Halifax. And we'd also like to note that a municipal partnership would put the turret in the position to qualify for even more federal funding programs, maximizing federal investment in Halifax. And finally, we are looking to create a collaborative building ownership model with HRM, prioritizing the 2 anchor tenants and their future growth. And with you, we'd like to consider creative precedents from cities with a variety of cultural assets. From the time that HRM invests, it would take 6 months for a turret to complete the construction documents, tender, and complete all of the hazardous materials abatement. Simultaneous to that, for 12 months, we would be working on the operationalization planning and funding strategy, as well as the business case, finalizing those. And with a finalized funding strategy, construction could begin as early as fall 2025, making the building ready to open for Canada Pride 2027 in Halifax. Any questions?
Thank you to our presenters. I'll see if councillors have any questions. Okay, Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for coming in. I'm an artist as well, so this speaks to my heart, speaks to my soul, which often for artists, that's what it's all about. I'm particularly pleased to see the emphasis on the queer history, the historical and heritage aspect of it. I think that that's really important next step for our city to recognize and have those spaces that are identifiable and welcome to everyone to learn and to grow. I have a couple of questions in that, and I'm just trying to find that slide where you show your needs. Just 1 second. $18.5 million is your ultimate goal, I think. That's what I'm seeing. And you're showing that what I would anticipate is a, you talked about I think I saw that there was public funding. Sorry, I've lost this slide. 16, thank you, 16 million for public funding. Oh, slide 16, thank you. Jeez. Jeepers creepers, I can't see numbers on the slide, so that's not going to help me. There it is, 16. Sorry about this. There we go. There we are. So 10.5 public, 8 private. Can you give me a sense of where you stand in both spaces? What conversations have you had? Have you had any sort of, I know with governments, they tend to say, well, if they're in, we're in. And so just let me know where you sit there. And do we have private sector coming aboard? You know, the city has, I think, lots of taps to open. And I really hope that we will also have that kind of encouraging news from you on that layer. Thank you.
Thank you for those encouraging words, for sure, first of all. But as we showed kind of earlier in the slides, we've raised and spent $1 million through tremendous collaborative effort from all levels of government, coming together at collaborative funding tables and figuring it out. That $1 million was 50% federal, and we are in the final stages of federal infrastructure funding of that evaluation. And so we are feeling really confident in that submission. And so the final player to come to the table is the province. And they've been very collaborative to date, and we anticipate further collaboration. We can't say anything for sure just yet. In terms of private, we've had a private fundraising campaign running behind the scenes for about 8 to 9 months. This project appeals to a lot of people across many kind of critical community interests, as we mentioned. So there is a lot of interest. We do, from our philanthropy advisors and from the work we've done to date, showing the public support first would really kind of grease the wheels on that. And this immediate funding from HRM would also get us to tender, which is that surefire number. That's when people can say, not just budgets, but the real tender number really helps with financing, really helps with donations, because either way, the project will require financing. Most donations don't just come in the form of a check. You know, it happens over time. So this last little piece, this 1.5 million, would get us to that like financial secure moment.
Thank you. Good to know. I have another question. So can you help me understand what your roles are in each case and your project management? Because this is not insignificant. You need to have the people on your team that will help you get through the whole thing. And that might be you. Don't know.
Well, I think it's a giant collaborative effort, but I'm on the board of directors.
Okay.
I also teach at NSCAD University, so I'm kind of coming in from the arts end and have over the years participated in kind of through like the education sector, social sciences and humanity research projects related to public art and public space.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Councillor Saint-Amand.
No, I just want to hear.
Oh,
She didn't say that she's also an excellent professional artist as well as I am. I'm the project manager, so I'm a consultant. In the long form report, you'll see that there's evidence of about 20 consultants working on this project. We have a really strong team. The architectural plans were done by Abbott Brown Architects, very well known to HRM, and really figured out the accessibility jigsaw puzzle of this building. We also have great philanthropy advisors and engaged a team of what we'll call community connectors that are making spaces in private donation worlds and committed to creating those connections. So that is in place. If you sift through the 2,000 letters, you'll see some of our community connectors showing their support there.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Saint-Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question about this slide in which you went through the deficit in the economic contribution of the cultural sector. Can you just speak to the ways in which the revitalization of the Turret Arts Centre will have an impact on both the deficit on the import and on the export side, and kind of bring us up to at least par with national averages, or are your aspirations to exceed those goals?
Well, I think with one major city center in this province, it is difficult to compete against, let's say, the averages you'd see in Ontario or Quebec. But we definitely can do better than we're doing now. And we can take a big bite specifically out of that export number, which is where we see that biggest gap. So the Turret Arts Space has spaces that support each stage of an artist's career, starting with, I'm going to point to Leave Out Violence. We have 2 leaders from Leave Out Violence Nova Scotia here. The youth enter their system engaging in arts and media programming. We have seen in the last 25 years professional artists come out of their programs. So we have the youth engaged in the building, and then the Khyber focuses on presenting emerging artists. So that's the next stage of the career. The Turret has created programming to fill all the gaps between the anchor tenants. So we have a professional development learning center on the ground floor that's also a community space, but it's fully equipped with the technology and the infrastructure for, everything from digital media art making to wet and wild art making. And then we have on the 4th floor an international grade artist residence with a studio and a small artist apartment, which you would be surprised to be one of the only physically accessible professional artist residences in the country, certainly in Atlantic Canada. And that kind of facility draws international interest. And so through that exchange of the professional art residency, and then the emerging artists, and then the youth, and all of that kind of working together, we're really generating professionals.
Right.
We're developing talent. And the Turret also has an operating partner called IOTA Institute that has been building artist careers for the last 10 years. Some of the artists that work with IOTA are Jordan Bennett. You would know his work from the Sportsplex, and some really amazing nationally and internationally recognized artists. So they're there also running the programs and providing on the side art management and import-export advising. So it's really a generator is what we've created.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting. I mean, not only are you an incubator within the space, but you would also inspire more artistry and connections to the queer community well beyond what's happening within your center. And the demonstration of commitment to the center coming from the public and from the private sectors will just wind up making that even greater. I have another question, but I'll come back. Thank you.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Alexis. Thanks, Angela. I am here as the councillor for the area, and I just wanted to get you to talk a little bit more about what really hit me when we met the first time, and then I was able to go for a tour of the building, was talking about the queer heritage and how that would be such a unique thing for our whole country to demonstrate. If you could tell the committee more about that.
Yeah, the heritage of the building is significant in gathering of lots of different communities, and the Gay Alliance for Equality was a significant one as well. A community that has been totally invested in this project since the Turret took over the building 6 years ago. So we sort of developed this idea to make the building a queer heritage site through our strategy and through inspiration from the Sharing Our Stories strategy from HRM, where it speaks about, equity deserving histories and co-creation and how that creates community. And so we were actually using HRM's words that inspired the idea to kind of come up with this designation. Only after we came up with the idea did we discover that there was no precedent for it in the country, because we'd been working so closely with Canadian Heritage and the Provincial Heritage and HRM Heritage, and everyone came back with no precedents. Stories are being told, but there isn't official designation. And so the work we've done so far, do you want me to continue? Keep going? You can continue. Yeah. The work that we've done so far is assemble queer researchers and artists to come together and develop just a concept plan of how it would look and feel in the building. Obviously, that will come with a lot of community input with this funding from HRM, but the feeling of the visitation experience would be kind of entering the accessible ground floor entrance when the first floor is dropped to the ground, which is super cool and interesting. And there would be a series of rotating exhibitions and public art spaces that are dedicated to interpreting the queer heritage of the building. So it acts as a visitation center, and it's rotating so that you can come back over and over again. And it kind of acts as a beacon to the public to come to the building just for a visit, even if you're not engaging with one of the art programs. But I'll let Angela continue.
Yeah, I think just to add to that too, the importance of the living heritage of the building in kind of working in relation to the queer history of the site. It wouldn't just be a kind of commemoration that sits in the form of a plaque, that we all know those things can, become invisible over time, but really like a lot of thinking put into how that heritage is living, not just by the activities of the building and who it serves, but also, investing in developing public art or forms of public art that are rotating, that are, temporary and changing constantly. So I think that's an important part of how we mark that heritage.
Great. Thank you very much. I encourage anybody who hasn't been out to the facility to check it out. It's really good to talk, and the enthusiasm coming from yourself and Sobas was great. Good luck.
Thanks, Councillor White. Councillor Beck. Kent. Yeah. Becky Kent.
My friends call me Beck, so it's okay. So a quick question. The building itself, is that designated heritage now? Yeah, I thought it was. But I wanted to make sure. So does that inhibit? No, doesn't get in the way of any of this. There's no hurdles to get over there.
Wait till it goes. There we go. Since we've worked so closely with the province and the city and the feds around heritage. So the heritage designation that exists right now is for the exterior facade, and it's those character driving elements that wouldn't be augmented for this project. Actually, we're going to make tremendous efforts to maintain it. That Gothic revival architecture is important. What we learned through working with all the agencies is that a heritage file is actually kind of a living thing, because people learn more things as an asset grows and people do more research. So it almost is an asset that it's already municipally designated, and it would be a matter of either augmenting it or reviving it, or we're not sure what yet. That's part of that pilot project we want to do with HRM to start to create the criteria around it. So yeah, what we learned is it's actually an asset.
And because it's the facade's connected to the interior. When you start poking around with interior, there might be risk to facade. Has that already been assessed and reviewed? So that's built into your
Absolutely.
your funding model.
There is no stone unturned in this
Okay.
plan. Our extended report that we provided you also has another 300-page report if you when you want to see it.
Did we receive the extended report? I don't think we did. The first one, okay. The one I'm looking at that you sent in an email? Okay, okay. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Or the red. Okay. Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning too in the early design development, the interior, to your question about how those two things relate. There's been some really, I think, innovative approaches to preserving certain aspects of the interior, like the central stair, for example. I mean, you could look more closely at that in the report, but in terms of like precedent setting and working to develop a kind of process together, I think, yeah, there's been some interesting work that way.
Okay. I'd love a tour. So that'd be awesome someday. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Becky Kent. Okay, let's move to Councillor Jean Saint-Amand, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one further question, but before I ask it, I am going to say that I'll put a motion on the floor, and I'll do that in a moment. I just want to make sure that I reserve enough time to do so. On the funding side, one of the things that I think we want to make sure that we take advantage of is that there are very often, not only as Councillor Kent referred to, the idea that, you know, certain types of funding can often trigger other types of funding. There are also levels of funding that can trigger levels of funding as well, and so that's something that we want to make sure that as you progress through this process, in particular, if the municipality is going to partner on something like this, that we take every effort to ensure that we are maximizing the opportunity here. You know, there's no reason to leave any money on the table if we can capitalize on any programs that are available, and you know, so much as $1 over a particular amount results in a greater contribution from another level of government, then that's something that we really need to thoroughly explore as well. I will put a motion on the floor. My motion is that CPED request a staff report responding to the request of the Turret Art Society and addressing options for municipal support, including funding to the Society to contribute to their project of restoring the Turret Khyber building and bringing the historic Arts Hub and community space back to life.
Councillor Kent is the seconder. Any discussion on the motion, or are we ready to move to the question? Oh, Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for your presentation. My question is just about the timing of this report. We are in the middle of a very pressure-filled debate for budget, and it's horrible. Is the intention for this report to come back before the last of our budget adjustment? Because their ask is for immediate, but I'm just wondering what the timeline would look like for this.
Maggie has a comment.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to the councillor. Just two comments on that. One, with respect to, I didn't realize when the presentation request came in that a component was for in-year funding. So we'll have to staff look at that and see if that would be a trip to audit and finance, given where we are in the budget process, I would say. So we'll have to look at that. And given that we might have to, it's a very tight timeline for a staff report for sure. So we'll certainly do our best to move as quickly as we can. But I know, members of my team have had some discussion already with the society. So we'll continue those discussions and try to meet as best we can any expectations that there are. I will caution it's an aggressive timeline. So we'll try and work through as best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Purdy. We're ready for the... I think she looked like she was leaving. She's, yeah. Okay. All those in favor, say A or raise your hand. Oh, sorry, Councillor Purdy, you're not. No. Okay. Contrary minded, nay. Okay. Oh, and I didn't vote myself. Okay. The motion has passed. Okay. We'll move. Thank you to our presenters. So we'll invite our last group of presenters for the day, our Short-Term Rental Association of Nova Scotia, and Catherine Sanderson, the director of the association, will be presenting this morning. And Catherine, I think you're probably well aware from our very excellent clerk that you have 10 minutes, and he will hold up a sign, a very high-tech sign indicating 30 seconds left when the time is up. So when your light turns green, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for adding us to the agenda today. My name is Catherine Sanderson. I am a director on the board of directors for the Short-Term Rental Association of Nova Scotia. Who are we? Well, we are a registered joint stocks companies association. We registered last spring, and we now have over 800 members. So we've been quickly growing and interested in supporting a small group of, or a micro industry that's very active within the HRM. We are a volunteer board of directors, by the way. There are 9 of us in total. We also have 3 regional coordinators that also represent different parts of the province, the Valley, the Tri-County area, and Cape Breton. Our purpose is to advocate for small-scale operators, usually people who own only 1 or 2 short-term rentals. We are very much in favor of regulations because this will contribute to our goal of providing excellence in hospitality. And we want our members to be respectful of the community in which they operate. We do feel that in the current situation, there is room for change in the regulations and the bylaws that will benefit not only our members, but the micro industry and the economic development of HRM. Short-term rentals do not contribute to the housing crisis in HRM. Our research has shown that many credible reports support this statement. In your fact sheet that we provided with your package, there are reports from the Conference Board of Canada and the Statistics Canada report that all indicate that HRM short-term rentals represented only about 0.4% of the whole housing stock. Eliminating all of them would have a negligible impact on the availability and affordability of housing in HRM. The province's own report also supported that fact. Why then have short-term rentals been villainized and scapegoated for the housing crisis? Is it because some of the loud voices have said that these short-term rentals are impacting their community as a result of 1 or 2 bad operators? Are large property managers that are owning multiple numbers of short-term rentals overtaking certain neighborhoods or buildings? And has the Hotel Association of Nova Scotia complained about competition? Short-term rentals are an entirely different product than a hotel room. And we have a case study in HRM that supports the studies that suggest that report that actually confirm that short-term rentals have no impact on available and affordable housing. At the end of December, after the September 2023 amendments to bylaws that closed down many short-term rentals, 734 short-term rentals were eliminated from HRM. And yet in HRM, rents continued to rise. Rentals.ca reports that two-bedroom apartments cost 18.2% more in 2024 than in 2023. And the most recent Rentals.ca report of March 2025 report shows an additional 4.9% increase in rentals for two bedrooms. The same March 2025 report shows that one bedrooms are up another 7.2% on top of a 10% increase over last year. And the January report of the Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia shows that homelessness since 2023 has increased by 25%. Conference Board of Canada, Statistics Canada, and the Province of Nova Scotia reports have been proven correct. Short-term rentals do not, or the shutting down short-term rentals is not solving the housing crisis. And HRM short-term rental owners are suffering. Included in your package are some stories from women who have been impacted by the changes that were instituted in September 2023. Most of our members are women, but all our members are trying to make ends meet by using their own properties, their own financial resources to supplement their income. In your fact sheet, you will see as well that there has been a list of regulations and increased fees that have come into effect that are basically discouraging short-term rentals. In September 2023, they were banned in Halifax in urban, suburban, and even rural areas, unless in the principal residence. A marketing levy was introduced in Cape Breton and HRM and is being rolled out across the province. There's been huge increases in tourist accommodations registration fees in September of 2024. Many of those short-term rentals who used to pay $50 are now paying $2,000 per year. The federal government will not allow business expense deductions for short-term rentals who are not in accordance with municipal bylaws, although our association wants our members to be in accordance with municipal bylaws. And new bureaucratic reporting and compliance requirements, the uncertainty of the future for this industry have basically forced regular Nova Scotians, just regular people, to give up on this micro industry. If you were struggling to make ends meet in this very uncertain and high inflation environment, this economy, wouldn't you find all of these measures rather daunting? If short-term rentals continue to disappear, there will be other impacts. In the September 2020 Council report, which you reviewed and used to close down short-term rentals in HRM, it stated that 18% of visitors who were surveyed said they would not return to HRM if there were no short-term rentals available. They also help travel nurses, medical students, construction work crews find affordable and convenient accommodation while they work. And Nova Scotia staycationers love family-friendly, pet-friendly accommodations which they can afford. As well, short-term rentals are truly a made-in-Canada product. They provide a well-distributed source of income for residents across all of HRM, urban, suburban, and rural. Very exciting development happened this year. Travel and Leisure magazine has named Nova Scotia one of the world's top destinations for 2025. What an opportunity for your residents. A recent National Post report shows, however, that HRM is at the bottom of the list of Canadian cities where residents can earn what they call side gig income to help pay their own rents and mortgages and living expenses. Short-term rentals are a perfect example of a side gig. The situation has changed, and Strands would like to see the bylaws changed to provide for more flexibility for your residents to achieve income stability and confidence. We are asking CPED, Community Planning Economic Development, to ask Council to amend the bylaws soon, in time for the upcoming tourist season. We have submitted a letter to the Secondary Planning process for suburban planning. And we're asking that secondary suites in areas currently banned be allowed with specific constraints. For example, limit the number of short-term rentals owned per person. Other jurisdictions work well when only up to 3 units per individual are allowed in any particular municipal area. Limit the number of short-term rentals per neighborhood, perhaps on a density formula. Again, if you look at the reports from the Conference Board of Canada and StatsCan, it shows that where short-term rentals are less than 1% of housing stock in an area, that this will not impact affordable and available long-term housing. We're also asking that when Nova Scotians stay at short-term rentals, that they be exempt from the marketing levy. And finally, perhaps we would consider licensing of short-term rentals, similar to how daycares and restaurants are licensed in order to regulate their responsible operation. We welcome the opportunity to discuss these suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Wonder if there are any questions from councillors? Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I have a friend who has been greatly impacted by these changes very negatively, and she's also a woman. So, can you explain just a little more fully the marketing levy piece and the licensing piece? I didn't quite understand. So the marketing levy, you want exemption for residents when they stay there. Could you explain that a little more fully, and also your licensing ask? Just on your current asks. So
yes, the marketing levy came into effect a year and a half ago, and it's 3% on the accommodations and cleaning fees as well. What we're suggesting is that because the marketing levy is meant to promote Nova Scotia, HRM in particular, through Discover Halifax, that honestly, Nova Scotians already know how beautiful HRM is, and they want to stay. They want to stay here. So it's not really directed at them. It's directed at the world, and it has been affected in that. Look, we've been designated as a top destination for 2025 in the world. So when Nova Scotians stay at short-term rentals, what we'd like to see is that marketing levy not apply to their stay. So that would save them money.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, and as far as the licensing component, again, you know, the restaurants are licensed. They need to meet certain operational requirements. They need to meet certain standards. And similar to daycares, you know, there's regulations and standards around them. And we feel that licensing could be a component of the short-term rental industry. And we as an association would participate, hopefully, within setting the standards and also even maybe monitoring the activity of short-term rentals so that they maintain a responsible and respectful level of activity within communities.
Okay, so you are in favor of a licensing component?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Becky Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for coming in and meeting with me outside of this. I know that our staff have gone through a significant process to get the bylaw in place. What I'm unsure about is, and Maggie, you can answer this, is the things that they're asking, that these folks are, this organization is asking for today, were they already considered in the process that got us to the space we are, or is there an opportunity now for this organization to dialogue with your folks, your staff, and does that require if that requires a motion? Because I feel like there's now enough time that we may have more information. We certainly have the information of impact. I can say equally to Councillor Purdy that I've had in my area some very negative experiences that have been conveyed to me in relation to short-term rentals as well. So it's not as It's not, there's two sides to the coin, and then there's always the gray area in the middle. So I think that I just need to make sure that we have the opportunity for this organization, who I think has a lot of great information, some suggestions, to meet with staff.
Through the chair to the councillor.
Planning, right.
It's a little bit beyond my area. Was that the bylaw work was led by planning and development, but certainly it was in just discussion with the clerk. I think it would be worthwhile to forward this presentation to the relevant planning and development staff and encourage a connection there.
Yeah, the presentation itself, forwarding that presentation doesn't have the content.
No, but she does have the content in the package that.
My gosh, see, I can't seem to find what you're talking about. And I feel like I've been behind the 8 ball this whole meeting. So I have to, and I don't find it in my email. So Simon, I'm going to suggest you send those to me again. The presentation is here, but I don't have the meat to it. Okay, thank you very much. So
just regarding process, I think if we're referring to another committee, that we'd probably recommend doing that through a staff report. I don't think if the desire was to forward the information through to say the suburban planning staff, that would necessarily require a motion. Just pausing for our solicitor to give comment on that, but my recommendation would be just to do that somewhat informally, if possible.
Certainly, you could do it informally. If you wanted to make a motion, that would be appropriate as well.
Councillor Saint-Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question, just in trying to connect the handout to the presentation, because the handout does speak to some of the specific ideas around licensing, limiting the number. I don't see anything in the attached document that refers to one of those points that was in your slides that spoke to secondary suites. Can you please elaborate on that particular point?
Yeah, within specific areas within HRM zones, unless the rooms were within your principal residence, or you were allowing your principal residence to be rented short-term while you were away, the secondary suites, the ones that were a separate entrance with its own little kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, that sort of like an apartment that would be considered potentially a long-term rental unit, those were banned within specific areas. And what we are asking is that those actually be reinstituted. They be allowed to operate within the currently banned situation. I mean, it was interesting in the news this morning, there was a piece about HRM is looking to incentivize people to build secondary suites, allowing up to $12,000 in funding in order to connect to the wastewater systems or whatever.
Right.
But we currently have secondary suites among our members that are now banned to operate at all within certain zones. And
as a short-term rental, or just overall?
As short-term rentals, yes. What they've asked people to do is convert those short-term rentals to long-term rentals. However, among our members, 99% say they would never convert those suites to long-term rentals for a variety of reasons. Some of them are single women. They don't want to have that long-term risk there within their own principal residence. They want to be able to be flexible enough to allow family, elderly parents to come and live with them for periods of time, or people who are visiting hospitals who need procedures to be done to come and stay with them while they're having the procedures done. You know, the flexibility of using the short-term rental secondary suite is what is so attractive to your residents.
Is there an appetite for a use case specific model, or is it just open the floodgates, make it available to use as a short-term rental? Because I do have some reservations about flipping that particular lid completely wide open as well.
That's right. We spoke about the constraints on the numbers of those allowed per person, you know, in order to allow individuals, like regular people who are trying to, you know, afford to live in these times, to make the extra money from short-term rentals. And we also talked about density. Perhaps within certain neighborhoods or buildings, there would only be a small percentage of those types of secondary suites that would be allowed and available for short-term rentals.
Right. Okay. I know certainly, you know, I think all counselors have had some reports of negative experiences from among their community, but there are probably some that we don't hear about that go positively. So it's difficult to have a really thorough assessment of how things are going within the marketplace, absent reporting on both sides. Thank you.
Councillors, if I could ask your indulgence, I have a question, if I may. Okay. My question relates to, I think when you present it, you mentioned that you had sent a letter to Planning and Development about your requirements under the suburban plan. Did I hear you say that? That letter, so that letter would already be in our system with our staff.
Yes, we had sent it to the attention of Kathleen Freilich.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay, Councillor Purdy.
Thank you. So we're working on a motion to send this to our planning and development staff, but with the purpose of working towards the asks that the association has indicated would be a course correction from the bylaw that was instituted and caused a lot of hardships to folks, I think unintentionally, but still it has happened. So kind of looking to course correct the bylaw to make it more fair and equitable to folks. So Simon, did you
So yeah, I think that potentially
or should we take this away and bring it back?
Yeah, that might be a better
I think
option
that's
at this
what we're
point
gonna
to take a bit of a pause.
Yeah, and come back as a notice of motion for council, because this is something. Yeah, it's
a bylaw of council.
It needs to be. I think it needs to be course corrected. It was a new policy, and of course not understanding the full impact of what, well-intentioned things can do. So, yeah, I think there's merit here for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Purdy. Okay. Are there any other questions for our presenter? No further questions? Thank you very much. Oh, we'll now move to the public participation part of our meeting. Do we have any registered speakers?
Thank you, Chair. There are no registered speakers today.
Okay. So this is now the point of the meeting where I'll ask if there are any members of the gallery who would like to speak. And I will ask 3 times. Would anyone like to speak? Would anyone like to speak? And for the 3rd and final time, would anyone like to speak? Please come forward. And I will note that you have 5. Oh, sorry, clerk. Sorry. Clerk Simon, do you have a yes? I will note that you have 5 minutes. Please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. And the clerk will give you a notice when you have 30 seconds remaining. Thank you. And please identify yourself as well.
Ms. Liz Darcy, and I am a member of the Short-Term Rental Association. I just wanted to give 2 examples of how this has affected my family in particular. My husband and I are independent business people, and we do not have a pension. And we set our portfolio up in 2022 to buy a property out in Lawrencetown. Prior to purchasing, I went and I asked the planning department what we could do with it. And we were advised the only thing we could do with it was small farming or short-term rental. We invested $300,000 into this property and only got it onto the market as of for rental. We followed all the rules as marketing, levies, and registration, only to come into this obstacle where, because we're owned in a corporation, it's still part of our private portfolio, but because we're in a corporation, we've hit these walls. I did get approval for registration very late last year. But the anxiety in all of this has just been incredible. But did get approval for it till March 31st this year. And as I go to do the renewal process again, now I've gone and invested into a digital marketer to assist me with getting this up and rolling. I'm starting to hit another wall again because they put a block in for corporation ownership. I think I'll get through that. But again, the money that's been involved in this and the anxiety over this is incredible. On another note, my son and his wife, prior to having children, have a in-law suite in their home. Her mother lives in Calgary. She comes for probably 3 to 4 months of the year, wants to be involved in their children's lives. And that rental ability has been taken away from them because they do have the secondary suite and they have been denied registration for that. So I just wanted to give a little bit of input from a short-term rentals perspective.
Thank you. And I see Councillor Kent has a question for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for stepping up and giving us that insight. A question for you in relation to the in-law suite. So you noted that your son, thank you, your son has an in-law suite that is used roughly 4 months of the year, and is the loss of rental on the other 8 months? Or are they saying that can't be used by the mother-in-law?
No, they're saying that the other vacant time, that they could help with their income, support themselves, that they're not allowed to use that space.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Individual, to be looked at like by case to case rather than overall blanket ruling. So
thank you.
Councillor Saint-Amand, we have another question for you. Please don't go away. Oh, we have another question, if you're okay with it.
Forgive me, I'm getting up to speed on what the particular red tape barriers are, even within the existing bylaw. So you referred to the incorporation. So are you? I run an incorporated company myself, and the reason for that was just legal protection. Like you set that up. So that would be pretty conventional, even for a sole proprietorship, to incorporate your company so that it allows you to have a separate bank account, have all of your expenses go through that corporate account, and it also provides you a degree of legal shelter for liability purposes, et cetera. Is that is that part of what's causing this issue? Is because you don't own it as a personal asset, the corporation owns it as an asset, and that's causing the issue?
I can't really say because I have to wait till next week for a ruling from the planning department on it. I know that it's because I paid $50 for registration last year, and more than likely they're going to increase that. It is a rural property. It's out in Lawrencetown, and I don't understand, like from the beginning of this, how that would have affected any of the housing crisis that went on in downtown Halifax, because it's blanketed all the way out to Musquodoboit. You know, we fall under that ruling, which is unfair, in my opinion. I have a beautiful panoramic view that should be shared with tourism, and I don't understand why there's so much obstacle in the way.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we were wondering about your community residency, but I understand it's Lawrencetown. Yes, thank you. Okay. I will ask, is there anyone else that would like to speak, just to make sure that we haven't missed anyone? Oh, we do have another speaker. Excellent. Yes, please state your name and the community you live in, and you have 5 minutes. And I'll repeat again, Simon, our clerk, will give you a sign when you have 30 seconds remaining. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Sobaz Benjamin, and I live in the north end of Halifax. And I am the current chair of the Turret Arts Society. And just wanted to, I think, share briefly about the queer arts designation and how important that is. But also, one of the things that Martin Luther King Jr. said that stays with me is that, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So I think one of the reasons why I think that, and I support the Turret, is because of the intersection and intersectionality, which speaks to, like I said, injustice against one is injustice against all. So, and also I think I understand that the ask is a high one at this time, but I think that it's important to say that the cost, if not borne, is higher, because we're looking at people who are, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say people are suffering, people are dying, people are being marginalized, and because of intersection, the people who you think and may be suffering are not always brought to the forefront. So I just wanted to kind of share that really briefly about the importance of the Turret as a space of intersection as well. And that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you very much. I am just going to see if any of the councillors have questions of clarification. No, thanks for coming up and speaking. We appreciate it and appreciate your support for the center. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, information. We don't have any reports or further motions. Our agenda where we are going in camera. I'll ask the clerk to advise on when we are actually in camera.
Thank you, Chair. I could just motion that or mention that this does involve a recommendation which can be ratified in public. So council can move in camera if they desire, but don't have to if there's confirmation on that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Kent.
Yes, I'll test that and by moving that the Community Planning and Economic Committee, 1, adopt the recommendation as outlined in the private and confidential report dated March 11th, 2025, and 2, direct the private and confidential report dated March 11th, 2025 be maintained private and confidential. And that's 15.1, just to be clear.
Councillor Saint-Amand. Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. No opposed. The motion has passed. Thank you. Okay, are there added items? Any notices of motion from any of the councilors that they would like to read? Okay, and the date of the next meeting? Could I ask for a motion of adjournment, please? Thank you, Councillor Purdy.